Happy New Year and welcome to another Tuesday's Thought. I am Jassett Crooks and we will continue to talk about the mind. Happy New Year to everyone. Thanking God for bringing us over to this calendar year. Truly, He's an awesome God. So we will be talking about the mind and different things about the mind. We know that it is with the mind that we serve Christ, and everything that we do goes through the mind before we actually do it. So we will continue to speak about that. So just a little refresher, definition of the mind. All intellectual and psychological phenomena of an organism, encompassing motivational, affective, behavioral, perceptual, and cognitive systems. That is the organized totality of an organism's mental and psychic processes, and the structural and functional cognitive components on which they depend. So our mind motivates us. Our mind influences our affect. In other words, it influences how we feel. So as we talked about last time, our thoughts influence how we feel. It also influences how we choose to behave, how we choose to react to a situation. It influences how we perceive things, how we look at things, how we interpret things. And it's how we think. How we think will decide a lot of things in our minds. So last year was a difficult year for many people. And for some people, it was a good year. Even though there's COVID and all of that going on, for some people it was a pretty good year. And for some people, it was not so much of a good year. Some people experienced had some good experiences, while others didn't have, a lot of good experiences in 2021. However, whether the experiences were good or not good, we can still be grateful and know that it is God's grace that brought us over to this calendar year, 2022. And all of this goes back to the way that we think, right? So, and we'll be talking about that a little bit more. So how you evaluate, how you look at the previous year is very much so dependent on the manner in which you think. So how we look back on last year, 2021, is dependent on how we think, how our minds work. And if you remember, we talked about some unhelpful thinking styles in the month of November 2021, or they're also called cognitive distortions. And those can influence how you look at the year, the previous year. So, what's going on when you're looking? What kind of lens are you using to look back on the previous year? Are you looking through the lens of all or nothing thinking, for example, where it's black or white, it's absolute? For example, you think to yourself, it was a complete failure of a year or it was completely successful, nothing in the middle. So you can, ask yourself, how am I looking at last year if I'm evaluating it? For example, with the all or nothing thinking, let's say you had something really significant or important or big in your opinion that you wanted to come to fruition and it didn't. Does that mean that the whole year was a failure for you? Or does that mean that that particular thing not coming to fruition the way you wanted it to? Does that mean that nothing good happened because that thing did not come to fruition. So something for you to think about. Are you looking at the past year in, through the lens of overgeneralization? And once again, you can check back to the thoughts in November to get more detail on these. Is one negative thing, painting a broad picture on the whole year? And how do you feel about that? If you're looking at it that way, that one negative thing, or maybe two, is painting a picture of how the whole year was, then obviously you would not be feeling well within yourself. You would not be happy if you're looking at things that way. And in one of the segments that we did in November, we did an exercise, if you remember, where if you think of negative things, how it makes you feel negative or sad or depressed. And if you think of positive things, how it makes you feel positive. It makes you feel good, makes you feel happy. And so it's the same thing when you're thinking about what happened last year, based on how you look at it, based on whether you use unhelpful thinking styles or not. That's definitely going to influence how you view the year last year. So are you disqualifying the positives? Are you disqualifying the positive where you're not the things that were positive because they might not have been big? You might say, well, that was no big deal. And then are you saying that the things that were negative were, they were big, and give them more credit than the positive things? Another thing is, think about whether or not you're looking through the lens of magnification, catastrophizing, and minimization. And I was thinking about that today as I was reviewing. And so magnification is to make something that is small, make it bigger than it really is. And then something that should be big, you make it smaller than it really is. And I was thinking about that today, and I said, well, we can use the lens in this way if we're using it in the right way. So if I choose to look at the positives, even though they might have been small, if I choose to look at the positives by magnifying them, then I'm doing something good for my mind. And if I choose to look at the negatives and minimize them, then I'm doing something good for my mind. But if I'm going to do it the opposite way, by looking at the negatives and making them really big, or looking at the positives and making them really small, then that's negative for me. So I was also thinking about us as Christians. No matter what negative situation that we find ourselves in, or whatever negative situations we're going through, as Christians, there's always, and there should always be, something positive we can find out of the most negative situation that we could experience. No matter how negative it is, there is one little glimpse of positivity in there somewhere. And as Christians, that's really how we ought to think. For example, you did something wrong and it came to light and you're chastised for it, or if it didn't come to light and the Lord chooses to chastise you in whatever way for that situation. And maybe it's really hurtful and painful what you're going through. Even in that, let's say you're going through a lot because of whatever the situation is, even in that there's positivity, and you can find something positive in that. And when I think of that, I think of the scripture in Hebrews 12, verse 6, and it says, "For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth, and scourgeth every son whom he receiveth." So even in a negative situation, as you're being rebuked, chastised, even in that you can find something positive, because if you have never been rebuked or reprimanded for negative things that you're doing, then you have to question, well, what's going on? Does God love me? Because his word says, and we know that he does love you, his word says that if he loves you, he's going to correct you and he's going to chastise you. And sometimes it's painful. Actually, chastisement is not something that you're going to enjoy. It's something that's painful. It hurts. And so even in that is positive. So whether we are being chastised through the word or a preacher or someone admonishing you, if that's happening, it's a good thing because God loves us. So we can find something positive in everything negative. A lot of times, the reasons why we have testimonies is because of something negative that we've been going through. So we're going through something negative, God brings us out of it, and we have a testimony. So we can find things positive even in the negative. A lot of people use the beginning of the new year to set goals as to what they desire to achieve for that year, or what they would like to accomplish, what they would like to see change. Myself, I'm not necessarily a, New Year's resolution kind of a person. I'm not saying anything's really wrong with that, but we can make changes anytime. Sometimes if you find that you want to make a change and it's, let's say December 1st, and you're saying, okay, I'll make the change January 1st, then you might want to check that. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. Because once we decide that we are going to make a change, we can start it right there and then. Even if we can't physically do whatever needs to be done, we can start thinking about it in our minds. We can start writing things down. We can start making plans. We can start looking into how we're going to do these things. So I am not necessarily a January 1st, I'm going to start doing this type of this thing or that thing. But I know a lot of people do it. So I figured, why not talk about it? If you're going to come up with goals and have plans and changes for this year, I figure the mind is very important, so why not talk about it? So no matter what your goals for this year is, your desires, whatever you want to change, whatever you want to do, that actually starts in the mind. It starts in the mind, and your mindset will dictate what's going to happen with that goal, with that desire for change. Your mind is so important in dictating what's going to happen there. So the driving force behind your goal or goals for this year is your mind. And the driving force behind the change that you want to see for this year is your mind. What you do or do not do to achieve that goal is going to first start in your mind. So there are some important questions that one should ask him or herself regarding their goals or goal, whether it's one or many, for the year 2022. So I'm going to go over some of those questions that you should ask yourself if you actually have goals for 2022. 1, how important is achieving that goal to you? So how important is it for you to achieve that goal? Another question you should ask yourself is the goal something that you really want? You can also ask yourself, is it something that you really need? And it's important to distinguish between whether or not you think that goal is a want or a need. Ask yourself, what difference is it going to make in your life? And how important is that difference to you? So if my goal is I am going to pray more often, as a Christian, that might be a lot of Christians' goals. I'm going to pray more often. Then ask yourself, what difference is that going to make in my life or in your life? And how important is that difference? You also want to ask yourself this question about your goal or goals. Is it going to benefit anyone else? So is my goal a goal that's only going to benefit me? Or is it a goal that's going to benefit someone else? And I'm not saying you can't have a goal that you believe will only benefit you, but it's a good question to ask and to know the answer to. Is it necessary? Are you going to benefit physically? Are you going to benefit financially? Are you going to benefit mentally? Are you going to benefit spiritually from this goal? As a Christian, is it going to enhance your walk with God? And I think that's a very important question to ask if you have goals for this year. And if you don't have goals for this year, that might be something that might spark something in you to have a goal in regard to your relationship or your walk with God. Maybe that might be a goal you might want to look into. So, is it going to enhance your walk with God? Another question is it worth it to have this goal? The reason why I'm saying that you should ask that question is because sometimes people just come up with goals and they don't put a lot of thought into it. Well, it's a new year, so I want to lose 20 pounds. And then you don't put a lot of thought into what it's going to take to lose the 20 pounds. And so in not preparing, in not putting a lot of thought into it, then you're setting yourself up for failure. But if you're going to have a goal, then you need to treat that goal like a business plan. And you need to put thought, think about it. What is it going to take for me to attain this goal? What will I have to give up? What will I have to take on? All those things are important if you want that goal to be achieved by the end of the year or however long you give yourself to achieve that goal. Question that you should definitely ask yourself is, did you have this goal last year or these goals last year or even the year before or one similar to it? And if you did, obviously, if you're having it as the same goal again this year, then maybe it didn't get to its full fruition. But if you've had it for years upon years, then you might want to question what's going on. Why is my goal the same thing every year? Why is it not improving? Why am I not achieving it? And you need to do an evaluation. If you didn't achieve something last year that was your goal and you didn't achieve it, then you need to do an evaluation on that. So look into, was it a time factor while the goal was not achieved? Was it financial situations or issues why it wasn't achieved? Was it physical factor, relational factor? What exactly, when you look back on what that goal, what you should have achieved from that goal and you didn't, then what stopped it from happening? Was it beyond your control? Or was it within your control, but you didn't do the things that you needed to do to make sure you attained that goal or achieved that goal? It is very important to take stock of what hindered you from achieving that goal, because by doing that, you're going to help yourself to not make the same mistake this year that you made last year. You're going to help yourself to do it differently. Because the thing is, if you keep doing the same thing and you're expecting a different result, then it's just not going to happen. So if you want a different result, then you have to do it differently. And so if it is your desire to achieve something, your desire to see something change in your life, then you need to put the effort into it now by really looking into what is this going to take out of me? What do I need to do to attain this goal? Am I just saying it because this is something we do every new year? Do I really care about it? All of that is something that you are going to have to really look into. So next time, we will be going further into talking about goals and what you want for yourself this year and how important your mind is in regard to whether or not you're going to achieve the goal or not. It's very easy to come up with a lot of goals. Very easy just to say things, yes, I want to do this, yes, I'm going to do that. And if you don't put the effort into looking into what it's going to take, yes, you can come up with 10 goals, you can come up with 20 goals. And at the end of the year, none of them you did not achieve, not even one. And so we need to count the cost of these goals that we're making for the year 2022. We don't want it to, you don't want your goal just to be a cliche. You don't want your goal just to be, well, I need to have a goal, so I might as well say this. I might as well say I'm going to read my Bible more. I might as well make the goal of I'm going to pray more. I might as well say I'm going to go to church more. But you need to do a little bit more searching yourself as to why you're making the goal and how important is that goal. And so until next week, take the time as you have another week to just go over and think about it. My goals, what do they mean to me? How important are they? Are they necessary? And we will see you again next week, Tuesday, to continue with goals for 2022. God bless you. Have a good week.